All right. Well, I guess I'm going to start.
Let's start. I'm gonna bring
Yes.
my plant so y'all can see. This is Liliana. She likes a lot of attention, so she's always in the frame.
I love it. I love
Always.
it. Well, hi, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to Self Care in Real Life. We are here with Aliyana Goode, the owner of Self Careology, and we're going to talk a lot about just the importance of self care, how you can do self care while you're at home in the midst of the pandemic. So, without further ado, I'm going to give Olive the floor and let her introduce herself.
Hi guys, as Ashley said, I'm Aliyana and I am the founder of Self Careology. I am 22 years old. I'm going to be 23 on Saturday. And I go to the University of North Carolina at Greensboro, majoring in communication studies and business administration. And I am a self-care queen.
Yes. So, tell us a little bit how you got into self care.
Okay, so my journey with self-care, the very start, of course, like I said, I'm a student. So that's just a lot of high stress levels anyways, just being a student and then also being an employee and then also being involved on campus and managing your friends, your family. It was all just a lot. And, you know, when you're in the hustle and bustle, all that, you feel like you can just handle everything. But eventually your body is going to come to a screeching halt, a crash, like your mental state is going to be all chaotic. And that's kind of what happened to me. Like I went through kind of like a real phase of just like not feeling mentally well, not feeling emotionally well. And so I know that kind of like with a trend when people feel like that, we're always like searching for answers and as to what can make us feel better. What do I need so that I'm back on track and I feel like myself again? And that goes into a lot of Googling, like terrible Googling, and you just should not Google during that time. And then eventually I just kind of decided, you know what, like there's a better way to get this done. And that's where I just kind of stepped into self-care and more so like holistic self-care, where it's like not just really caring for like your skincare, your body, but really like digging into yourself, who you are, what you are willing to tolerate from people, from yourself, the way that you, the way your narrative is about yourself within your own mind as well as to others. So that's kind of just how I started. It really just kind of started about a year and a half ago, I guess I would say. Yeah. And that's what started my self-care journey. And I'm so passionate about it because I know the power that has done in my life in terms of me feeling better and just knowing what it is that I need to do for myself to feel okay while I'm still like doing school and running Self-Careology and all those great things. So that's just kind of how my self-care journey started.
I love it. I'm so proud of you. Like everything that you're doing with like self-care and self-careology, like getting it up and running. Just with everything, how do you practice self-care yourself and like balance out school and running a business and just your everyday life?
Well, I will say with Self-Careology, it has been hard because I am so passionate about self-care. Sometimes I neglect my self-care in order to take care of Self-Careology, but I'm trying to manage that and get back on track. And I think one way that I'm trying to do that is knowing when I need to stop, like knowing when I need to take a break from it and not feeling bad about taking that break. I think, especially in 2020, I'm kind of glad I'm not glad that Corona is going on, but I'm happy that we're all able to take this halt because this is the time where we feel like, you know, you have to grind all the time to make it in the world. And while that may be true, it doesn't mean that you have to grind yourself into the ground. Like you should take care of yourself. So for me, is knowing when to stop and also not being so critical of myself when I don't get the things that I plan done. In terms outside of Self-Careology, I really enjoy journaling a lot. That helps me work through my thoughts, my emotions, and really get it down on the page and understand myself a lot more. And a lot of journal prompts too, where it's like they're not necessarily questions that I would come up with for myself. They're kind of like, you know, deeper questions to kind of dive into who I am, as well as a lot of boundaries, like what I'm willing to take, which kind of goes with the same thing as just like knowing when to stop. So those are the main things in terms of like skincare and just taking care of your body. Yoga, meditation. I need to get back into my extreme meditation. I kind of slowed down a little bit, but I need to get back into that because that was definitely one of the things that did wonders for me. I mean, like wonders. And, you know, people are sometimes intimidated by it, but it really helps. Drinking your water, making sure you're getting fruits and vegetables every day. Those are the main things that I kind of do in terms of like body. And then the other things are kind of more emotional, mental state. So,
yeah, I love it because it's just like 2020, everybody was like, we're going to hustle, like we're going to start these businesses, do all this other stuff. So us stopping is probably the best thing. And a lot of people don't see that, just a social distance thing. With people with being at home now, how do you feel like they can kind of start getting into self-care?
Oh, yes, absolutely. So first of all, quick plug-in. I do have a self-care calendar challenge on Selfcareology's Instagram in the bio. So what it is that it's a full calendar of tasks for you to do just to kind of play into your self-care and kind of get the ball rolling for April. So I would definitely suggest that during this time. But in general, I think this is a really great way to reflect. Like, I think this is a really big reflection time. I think that self-care in any aspect, not just during this quarantine and social distance, but starts with you. Like, at the end of the day, you can have all the skincare products, yoga, meditation, but at the end of the day, it's about you, and it starts with you. It starts with that mental click of being like, okay, what am I going to do to take care of myself? So that is really the biggest thing. I think really prioritizing yourself is the start. And then going from that is just kind of digging into yourself a little bit more with that self-awareness, understanding you, because once you understand you, you can understand what it is that you need to feel okay emotionally, mentally, physically. But yeah, I think during, like you said earlier, it is a really good time to sit back and really dig into the self-care and you, even though you might not realize it. Like, yeah, it sucks that we can't go here and there, but in meditation there's this saying that they say, like, you find your in stillness you find your true self. And so I think that when you're still, when there's nothing for you to do, that's when you truly find who you are, because you're not influenced, hey Kenny, you're not influenced by the people out there, you're not influenced by the things that you have to do. You're sitting still and you can focus on you. So I think that's generally the area where you want to start, is just starting with you. And sometimes that's really scary. We're scared to go into depth and to think about parts of ourselves that we don't necessarily want to think about. But working through that is definitely the key to really well self-care.
Yeah. How was it for you when you first started self-care? Like, I know it, well, like, because it's like a trend right now, and like in the culture, everybody's embracing self-care. When you first approached it, was it before everything was popping about it? Was it like something that was intimidating to you?
Well, it was something that I literally just had to do because I was feeling so trash. Like, I mean, after I understood what self-care was, I started seeing that self-care was a big deal to other people, only because I started following accounts that prioritize self-care. So before, I didn't know what self-care was. I thought I was immune to any type of just like depression, anxiety, until it hit me like a bus and just took me out. So I kind of feel like, even though it's, you know, really big, kind of like in the mainstream social media world, I guess, it's important. And ultimately, I think that it's a good thing that we're moving towards more awareness of that. But yes, when I first started, it was something that I wasn't even really calling it self-care when I was, you know, working through all of that. But over time, I realized what it is. And, you know, the fact that it takes on a bunch of different forms, it doesn't have to look the same way for everybody. That's how I kind of started seeing self-care. So it wasn't intimidating for me. The only intimidating part was, like I said, really trying to go in depth in the parts of you that you don't really want to visit. Like, you trying to close those areas off. That's the intimidating part. But besides that, I think that, I mean, ultimately it's just, it feels so good. Like, you literally feel a light beaming inside of you and it radiates off of your skin. I know, like, when I first started feeling like, when I first started feeling really, really good, like, my friends, like, they would tell me, like, you're glowing, like, you look good. And so I was happy about that.
Yeah, I did notice that. Like, from where you were last year with everything going on with school to now, it's like a big transition.
It's a huge transition. Absolutely. Honestly, like, thinking back on it, I can't even believe that my mind was, like, in that much chaos and turmoil because I feel so great now. So yeah, it's a
absolutely.
big difference.
So for someone who's in a dark space now, like staying at home and like, I don't know, a lot of people outsource for their energy and outsource for taking care of themselves. For someone like that, when they're at home, how can they really start doing that self-reflection or just taking that time to find what self-care looks like for them?
Mm-hmm. I think, like I said before, really just, I think for me, what it was just really reflecting back on the things that might have led me to this. I don't think there's any definite answers to why, you know, you feel like you're in a dark space, but I think kind of reflecting back on the last year of your life and seeing what it was that might have triggered it or might have really put you in a bad space helps, because once you can pinpoint some of those things that you weren't comfortable with, you can work on fixing those. But in terms of just like really being in a depressive state, I would definitely say talk to somebody. Talk to somebody. I don't care who it is. Talk to somebody. You should not bottle that in. You were literally burned on the inside. Just talk to somebody, your friend. And the thing is, they might not understand it, and they might not give you the language that you want to hear, or the things that you want to hear. But the fact of the matter is, a lot of the times when you're that much in that terrible headspace, there's a lot of things that you're just not gonna, that aren't gonna resonate with you because you don't understand it unless you've gone through it, type of thing.
Right.
But anyways, still talk to them, because you getting that out and them being able to realize that you're not feeling well enates them to kind of check up on you, and then you have that point of that person that you can point to and look at and be able to express yourself. So I would definitely say the number one thing is talk to somebody, and they can kind of guide you through that, especially if you're going to go see a therapist. I know there's a lot of resources for online therapy right now since we are in quarantine. I would definitely take advantage of those. I know that a lot of people don't have the financial means. So with that, I would say get a close friend, a close family member, and talk to them. Or I would say you can always talk to me on Selfcareology and my personal account. Always open to just talking and just getting it out and kind of just being that listening ear. I think it's also for the people who are caring for people who are going through a, you know, mental time. I think it's very important just for you to listen. I know a lot of us feel like we have to respond to things when, you know, they're feeling bad. You feel like you have to give them an answer to their problems. But honestly, the best way to do this is to just listen and to ask them questions. Well, you know, what would you want this life to look like? What do you think was the reason that you got here? What could be better for your life? Just to get them to start thinking like in the state of recovery instead of kind of staying in it, which they probably will be for a little while, but pushing them out. So to wrap up my rant, the number one thing is talk to somebody. If you're not feeling well, talk to somebody. I don't care who it is, talk to somebody.
I like that though, because I think even as Black women, like we don't talk to people sometimes, like we carry the weight on our back, like trying to be superwoman for everybody. How can they find that one person to talk to?
I would say find the person that you feel you can be most vulnerable with. I think that's the person who will be the most understanding or the closest to understanding, as opposed to someone who might not even understand what mental health is. And thankfully now we're kind of in the day where most people are hip to what mental health is and the truth about mental health. But I think that person that you can find, that person that you feel like you can be most vulnerable with, is the person that you should go to. If, you know, auntie, uncle, mom, dad, grandma, grandpa, if they are kind of with that old view of mental health, we just gonna leave that alone, okay? We're gonna leave that alone. We just gonna go over here to the people who understand and who can kind of get a little bit of what you're saying, but mostly the person that you feel most comfortable with.
Yeah.
I don't know. That is up to you to determine the person who you feel the most comfortable with. I wouldn't say there's like a direct person, but definitely someone that you feel like you can talk to about anything, and who, you know, has a big hearted goal that'll always, you know, check in on you and not just leave you alone while you already told them that you're not feeling well. So yeah.
Love it. So is there anything upcoming with Self Careology that we could stay tuned in?
So right now, of course, I told you about the self-care calendar, which you can go and download in my bio at any time. I don't care, 3 weeks in and it's the last week of April. Go and download it if you need it. And, you know, to get involved with us on the daily tasks, I'm doing the challenge myself, of course, and posting things on my story about it. Besides that, one of the things that are up there this upcoming Sunday, I am doing a guided self-care activity. And it's looking like they're voting on what they want right now, but it's looking like it's leaning more towards the digital vision board, which I'm very excited about. I was excited about all of them, but I want to do what y'all want to do. So, and then also they're voting on the time, but the time is looking somewhere between 5:30 and 6:30. I'll post it on my story tomorrow, the definite details of what it is, but that's the next thing. Besides that, you can always find content on our page. And that's pretty much it that I have going on. Our podcast, of course, the Selfcareology kind of originated with a podcast. It was first originally a podcast, and I still do podcast episodes, but I'm solely focused on content because this is where I feel like I reach the most people. But the podcast has episodes up there right now. You can find them on Spotify, Apple Music, Google Podcasts, Anchor, and a host of other podcast providers, which you can also find in the link in my bio. I just did an episode on working through disappointment and change, because we all have gone through our fair share of disappointment and change during this time, because we could have never saw this coming. And there's also the one before that was like a self-love one, and there's a bunch of topics up there, so I would definitely encourage you to go listen to that during like your shower, your drive, whatever.
Well, I love this. Thank you so much for being up here and sharing all your knowledge.
Thank you so much for having me.
Of course.